Open loops. Do, do. Open loops. Open loops. Open loops. Open loops. You must listen to the open loops, a theme park for absurd beliefs and systems of integration between the mind and the creative spirit. Open loops.
Today on Open Loops, we have Désirée Eckert, a hypnotist and certified instructor of evidence-based hypnosis. She teaches a intuitive hypnosis grounded in neuroscience. Definitely is all about the edges of things. I mean, when we're talking the metaphysical side of hypnosis. And what I love about Désirée's story, and we're going to get into this more, that I'm intrigued to talk to, is that she came from more of the metaphysical side first, and then hypnosis is the piece that put it all together. She does microdosing hypnosis. She has a membership where these very useful shorter sessions that she drops for you in your regular life to just get a little bit of hypnosis. Really what I'm excited about with Désirée is to talk about her vision of a hypnotic world, her vision of popularizing it. Longtime listeners of the show know that one of the reasons I started this show was because I think hypnosis needs to be out there more. And it's so freaking cool. And people don't realize how powerful of a modality it is. And meanwhile, Désirée over here is like taking that to the next level. And is actually out there showing people, training people on this, creating new things, leaning into the artistic side of it. I love it so much. I'm intrigued to talk to her. Désirée, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I know. I did I load you up too much? I gave you a grand intro there.
Like, yeah, she sounds cool.
Do you identify? I mean, okay. Tell me this. Well, do you think you're cool?
I do, actually.
Oh, that's good.
In my life where I'm like, I can admit that, actually. Like, yeah, I've cultivated this for a couple, handful of decades. Yeah, I can say that.
Yeah, that's cool. That is cool. I mean, you certainly have a cool attitude. You have a cool appearance, and the way you are talking about hypnosis is definitely cooler than I feel I encountered it when I did my deep dive in 2013 and have been looking at it ever since. I mean, I would say that there was a lot of the stage hypnosis thing was always, I guess, kind of the interesting version of it. I will say that Anthony Jacquin and Head Hackers was really kind of it inspired me to be like, okay, if you can bring this stuff to the streets and give people experiences like hallucinations or all the phenomena, then clearly there's something here that's edgy, though it was kind of looked at as like, oh yeah, but is this, this isn't really hypnotherapy. This is some kind of party trick. And meanwhile, I'm sitting here being like, yeah, but do you see what this party trick is? Do you see the potential of this? I've always thought it was cool. But what about you? I mean, what was before you got into all this world? Like, where was hypnosis even in your trajectory, Desiree?
Yeah. Well, my very first experience of hypnosis was in the 90s, an Edgar Casey book on tape, self-hypnosis book on actual cassette tape. Uh and I was like in the 90s, I was sick. I was like a sick kid. I was diagnosed with autoimmune disease like as young as 7 years old. So my whole like the next like kind of 20 years of my life after that were just like finding out what's wrong with me, how to deal with it. And one of the things that I kept gravitating to during that time, because again, this was the 90s, like Google wasn't even really a thing yet. There was AOL chat rooms, but that was about it. You couldn't really find information online. So I was just like kind of poisoned by a lot of medicine. I feel very lucky to be alive, actually. I was like an experiment for my doctors. And in that time I was spending my time in the library or in the bookstore just like reading about trying to find out about my diagnoses, but always would get lured over to the metaphysical section of the bookstore. And that's kind of like where I just like found all of these like hodgepodge of practices and things that actually made me feel like a sense of control or empowerment in this situation where I was otherwise completely out of control and disempowered. So those meditation is something that helped me and I didn't know why, but so that was my first kind of idea of hypnosis. And then like many years later, I'm well now, I have no symptoms really. And it was in 2015 I tried hypnosis just on a whim. I had a stalker at the time and I was just like trying anything and everything, seeing astrologers, getting a lot of Reiki, tarot readings. And I tried hypnosis just in that whole, let me see if something comes up. And it wasn't so much the session that was like completely transformative, but it was like, it blew my mind open because I was in this very familiar place in my mind. And, also like practicing as kind of as a witch, I identify as a witch and, do a lot of magic in that way, in that sense. And I was in this place in my mind where I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so familiar. And yet I never thought of using this state of mind to actually change how I experience life outside, like just like for very targeted, hyper like targeted outcomes. And I knew in that moment, like I'm in trance, but I'm connected to all of this stuff in my mind. Like my brain was like lighting up, I'm sure. And yeah, it was just like I have to know everything. And then I just like went on a journey for like 2 years reading a lot of books, trying to find where I was going to train. And then since then, just never really ends, just keeps getting bigger and bigger. So I don't know if that
Yeah.
answers.
There are a few things on that. First of all, do you believe that your investment in metaphysical things in the library and in meditation, do you think that helped your healing or was it something else?
Totally. Yes, absolutely. I'm trying to or striving to like decode how that happened, but it just like kind of was just like this frame of reference always for me that there is something else and we don't always need to consciously know how it works or what it is. And that was just like deeply instilled in me at a young age. So I'm just really glad that I kept that because I think that's, as much as there is like I love evidence-based hypnosis, I love knowing how the brain works and using that to our advantage, but there's also all of this mystery involved too. And we have to like just let go a little bit and just allow the mystery to unfold. We can't know everything and giving ourselves up to this process that we don't really know everything about is
Yes.
important.
I'm so with you there. I'm so with you. Um, I guess I'm curious. Did you have any? I mean, what even got you to believe the metaphysical would be something that could heal you? Did you have an experience? Do you have family members that were into this? I mean, why were you so open to something that to some people they'd go, this is like, I would never be in this section of the library. This is bonkers stuff. Like, what was it for you?
I've always been drawn to that kind of stuff. Like I was obsessed with like aliens and ghosts and the paranormal since I was like really young, and ancient civilizations like ancient Egypt was just like something I was drawn to as a very, very young child. So and there inherently is mystery in that too. Like, it's like, oh, I can read like paranormal encounters and documentations of these like ghost hunting missions. Hans Holzer was my favorite. That's kind of how I got introduced to witchcraft too. One of his longtime mediums was a woman named Sybil Leek, and she was a diviner. She did palm reading, astrology, tea leaf reading. So as a very young kid, I was kind of getting just interested in that. But also, yeah, like ancient Egypt, like we kind of know there's Egyptology. We know that there's artifacts, there's remnants of that, but there's also the mystery. Like we're never actually going to know. And so I don't know, there's just something about the knowing and the not knowing that is just, it's like they go so well together. Like
Yes.
and so yeah, I think, I don't know.
You are like my you are like my subconscious mind speaking right now. You are the manifestation of it. It's interesting because I've done recently, very recently, Desiree. I had a session with an executive coach where she was going, okay, so you've got these values. You got like values around freedom, Greg. You've got values around self-expression. The word mastery came up, but I've always been kind of I haven't wanted to fully identify with that word mastery because I've always had such hesitancy around a tangible goal or outcome and my connection to what it means to me. And I've talked about this a lot in the show, the indecisiveness. I mean, the amount of people I've probably asked in interviews, can you help me find my purpose in life? It's probably way too many. Not sure if you can, Desiree, but I'll leave it out there for you. Think about that for later. But what I was going to say is that, she goes, okay, you got these words, they're very vague. Um, what are you curious about? What is the thing that is grounding all of this? And I was like, well, it just so happens I actually did this exercise. Steve Kotler, Flow Research Collective, one of their early exercises is they make you write down 25 things you're curious about and finding the intersections between all of them. And Desiree, I swear it's what you just said. It's like mystery, illusion, that in between space. Also for me, I'm sure you must have this too, because I've heard you speak about it. It's the human to human connection that facilitates a deepening into mystery. That is important. Like, it's not just mystery. It's like hypnosis is the perfect thing because it's like, what can I co-create with this person that's going to arise that I couldn't even possibly have predicted? That to me is what draws me. It's what drives me. It's what motivates me. And very recently, and I don't know if you think this way, but I've realized that that is the goal. The goal isn't to necessarily like be the best, podcaster or the creme de la creme hypnotist. It's like, can you get good at being where you're at and accept that you're not necessarily know where that's going to lead, but that is the magic that you're actually seeking. Do
Yeah.
you feel similarly to that at all, or am
I
I
do. No,
going
no, I
insane?
absolutely do. And I feel like that actually like kind of weirdly relates to like it's just the other day I had an experience where like I was seeking an in-person healing experience because I haven't had one since before the pandemic, well before actually. So I was like, I moved since then. So I'm in a new area and I was reaching out to some people like I feel like I have an energy block. I have so much like hypnosis and I receive a lot of hypnosis. I'm very lucky, but I don't feel like this is a hypnosis thing. I think this is an energy thing. Like I don't want to know anything about it or have even an epiphany. I just want to feel a shift. And since it's been so many years since I've done that kind of work, I received, I just had a session on Friday and it was amazing how like subtle it was. And I'm like, this is what happens when you kind of evolve. I don't know why this relates to what you just said, but somehow it does. It's the like the more you kind of zoom out and have more understandings, like the less you need to cling to these really like definite, finite like, or this clear objective, this clear goal. Like, I don't need to feel a seismic shift or a sense of catharsis. Like, I like just feeling a subtle shift is enough because I trust more now. And I have like kind of maybe the mastery, like you were saying, of like just mastering life experience like that is, and that allows for more subtle things to come in. And as I was kind of wanting more from my guides, I'm realizing like they're all kind of the same shape shifting energy blobs too. And it's like, we want to cling to things with our human conditioned perceptions, like this is a clear sign, this is a clear feeling, but we can't always have that. And it's just like, as you evolve, you just get more okay with that. Like, I don't know, that sense of, I don't know.
Yeah,
Does
that
that make
amorphous, invisible intelligence that is even beyond the word intelligence.
Yeah. Yeah. Beyond words. Like we want to
Yes.
word everything. And it's like there's so much that doesn't have words. We can't logicize all of our feelings or even name them and like let that be okay, I think.
Totally, totally. And how do you, I mean, look, and I know I'm gonna jump all over the place here, but I really want to ask this now. You have a business. I mean, you do run a business here. You have a membership. You have trainings you run. You've been doing sessions even way before that. Um, how do you relate to something as tangible as looking at your budget, dealing with numbers? Because to me, that is, I know that I have a natural resistance towards maybe facing reality sometimes, but also like these are the building blocks. At a certain point, you need to know, well, I paid this much on ads. And then I'm getting this back. And it's kind of gross, and it feels, in a way, it feels like it's the opposite of what we were just describing. Did you have to like grow into a business minded person? Is that something inside of you? Like, where's that live for you?
I'm still getting there. I mean, I don't know if you noticed my whole posture and body language change when you start talking about that because it's challenging and difficult uh
Yes.
and it changes, yeah, it changes what you do because like I actually struggle with that a lot, or I just think about it a lot. It's like what I do with clients is amazing and sacred. And even what I do with my students for the most part. But when you're working with students and you have customers, it's like then it's like customer service. It is a business and it just feels so different from the other stuff. It feels like night and day and it's challenging. And the numbers aspect, I mean, I've always been good. Like I'm a Capricorn. I'm pretty good with practical stuff like that. But I used to live in New York and I had a lot of connections there. And I was always freelance. So I was able to build my hypnosis practice from my freelance work as a tailor. And and I always had tailoring jobs. Like I could take a tailoring job that would sustain me for a month that took 3 days. And that was a great option. Out here, I don't have much supplementary income. And so it is just relying on the online presence. And I haven't done any paid ads yet. It's all kind of word of mouth. I'm intentionally like, I don't want to say intentionally, but pretty small. A lot of like referrals, word of mouth. And I, especially with my trainings, like not everyone who wants to join gets to join because it's a very sacred space for me. And I'm really holding the space as like as that as much as possible. I will want people who genuinely want to use this modality, whether they call themselves a hypnotist or not. They're like, they have that healer's heart, and so that's kind of who I'm wanting to work with in that sense. But yeah, it's interesting just the how it changes things, the customer service aspect, and what's expected of you as a business owner versus like this beautiful kind of co-created thing we do with clients that has always been like amazing for me, pretty
Yeah.
much. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I know, and it is a skill set, and I do believe it can be developed. I mean, the hypnotist, James Tripp, who I've had on the show a bunch, had like a whole webinar about building your business head. And it's still something I think about a lot. Occasionally take action on, but yeah, no, it's I mean, to me it's just like, okay, well, that's just like another deep trance identification I need to find, or I need to model people that it's not just about modeling excellent business heads, it's modeling people who weren't that became that. That's
Mm.
the interesting thing. I don't know who those people are out there. I ask a lot. But I think they're starting to arise because it's definitely a needed niche. Um, what I wanted to ask you, Desiree, is, oh gosh, I completely lost it.
Coming back.
Wait, now I know. You got it. You got it. You got it back. Whoa, she's good. She's good. Okay. Where do people, well, I actually wanted to ask you this first. This is a weird question. I want to know about the sociopaths you've kicked out before they've potentially got into your trainings. Has there any weirdos? What's the weirdest, or has there been someone you were on the edge of letting into a training and you were like, oh, this person's going to use this for bad things?
Well, not really that, thankfully, but I yeah, there's unfortunately, I'm visible on Instagram mostly. That's the main place on social media where people find me, and and there are there's like a lot of hypnosis fetishists who I've identified some of the patterns now of how they start messaging you, and they're very passive, and then they really want you to be their teacher, and they're very fascinated.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so there's been a few people like that. So that's why I required, like we have to meet on Zoom. I have to let my intuition as much as possible, like read your body language. I have to just like use my intuition, because you're going to be sharing space with people that I want to feel safe in trance. And in my very first hypnosis training, I was actually non-consensually groped by a man completely outside of the context of hypnosis. And that's something that I keep coming back to. Like it was totally brushed under the rug by my teacher when I told her about it. And we just need to keep hypnosis. I want to keep hypnosis a pretty safe place for my students, because they're all a lot younger than me. They're like in their mid 20s and early 30s, and they're of a different generation, and they're not taking that, kind of shit, and they don't necessarily feel safe. And that's why they find me, and they're like, wow, you're the first person that like I heard talking about hypnosis or talking about these things that they always kind of thought were under the surface, because we have to tell those kinds of stories so people raise awareness, raise the awareness of our colleagues and of my future students. I want them to come to conferences, and I want them to feel safe and be aware. So yeah, that wasn't even really your question, was it?
Yeah, no, I'm asking for scandal. I'm asking for
Oh,
deeds. You don't
yeah.
have to. You don't. No, but that makes sense. I have since also been contacted before from strange people that want you to. They want to be your slave and all. I mean, this is what happens. Hypnotists get this a lot.
Yeah.
Um, it's intriguing that is, yeah, but I'm sorry that you also were in that situation. Oh my gosh, that's horrible. um yeah, I can, it's great that you're doing this to cultivate a safe space. And also something that's intriguing is people in their 20s and 30s. To me, um, and I know I keep going back to this, but it seems like we're around the same age and have similar interest to hypnosis. So I feel like you probably encountered similar things. Originally, I was always going, where are the young people? It seemed like it was like 40s, 50s, 60s, people that were therapists for years. All the trainings were adults. I mean, it's what do you think it is that you're attracting younger people to this? I mean, is it just that it's more popular on TikTok now? Like what it might be right time, right place. I mean, could be you. Yeah, it's very curious that you're hitting the youth sector with this.
Yeah. Well, I do think it's like the transparency, and I am a bit progressive. And in that first training that I did, it was all, I was surprised. It was mostly people who were therapists getting their CEUs or whatever. And like, I was surprised. I thought there would be more healers in the profession. That's why I'm specifically wanting to, train people who are in that world, who are doing energy healing or even tarot reading, astrology, all of that. Um, they should know hypnosis for a variety of reasons. But yeah, I think it's just me being vocal and talking about, what needs to change, or, it's exciting to see young people. I think we're at a time where, you know, as even Andrew Huberman is a little bit problematic, or he has become. Um, but he's made hypnosis, like he's put it on the radar of a lot of people. So I think a lot of young people who are interested in like optimizing themselves, like their minds, they are aware of hypnosis and maybe aware that they even should be interested in it or that they should try it, but they can't find the people who are talking about it in the right way. They can't find like young people, sorry, don't want to go to David Spiegel because like he's just this old crotchety man. No offense.
Yes.
I respect him, but it's like we have to like say like, hey, this is for you too, and it is for them. It is for everyone. It's a life skill. That's what I like to always say. Like hypnosis is a life skill. Everyone needs to know it. Everyone deserves to know it. And so yeah, just talking about it, and that's kind of what I'm talking about at the conference this summer too, is as how we can kind of modernize it in the way that we talk about it, the ways that we speak about it, so we can welcome in a whole new generation of clients and perhaps even students if you're a trainer, and just start thinking about it in a new way. It's a new time, it's a new generation, and they're not buying the old way of talking about it.
Yes. Okay, Desiree, what's more important, that people vote in this election or they learn hypnosis?
Hypnosis.
Wow. Okay,
No,
controversial.
I mean,
No,
I
I
don't
put you on the
know.
spot there. I know.
It's a complicated topic, but self-hypnosis can get you through anything. That's all I have to say.
That's true. Also, maybe if people learned hypnosis, they would understand what politicians were doing
Seriously.
and choose the people that have the good intentions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And also, just so people that may not be aware, Desiree will be at Hypnothoughts Live this summer in Las Vegas. I will be there as well. It's gonna be. I'm very excited for this first hypnosis conference that I've ever been to. Yeah, rock the vote, rock the trance. Like I love this kind of. I love the youth, bringing the youth into it. That's fun. Uh, Okay. I want to go into your understanding of it a little more now. So, you're doing all this metaphysical stuff. You're intrigued by it. You learn about Edgar Casey. And I know my grandfather used to talk to me about Edgar Casey going into trance and his ability to, oh yes, you have this ailment, take this recipe and this thing and da 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 da. So yeah, no, I definitely know that trance is in that world. Um, did you have any metaphysical experiences in the trance state that are very clear and vivid to you before you had this formal thing in 2015? Like what was some of the stuff that you were getting access to? Angels, aliens? I mean, let's get into it a little bit.
All of them, all of the above and more. No, but I actually like was very clairaudient. And this is one of the things that I kind of understood about myself in my very first hypnosis training. The first one I did was 2 weeks, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. We were just like in and out of trance all day. And during that time, like I kind of understood trance. And one night, like one night after the training, I was staying at a friend's, my partner at the time, their friend of the family's house. It was kind of a weird thing. We were staying in somebody's house. And I heard very clearly, it was like falling asleep. To be very truthful, we had just smoked a little bit of weed and we were falling asleep. I don't smoke anymore, but like that was just this one-off thing. So we're falling asleep. I heard music and then I heard a voice saying things. And I told my partner and they're like, do you hear dead people? And I was like, yes. And I was just so weird how I answered yes, but I was just like, it all clicked in that moment, like a lifetime. I was like, because I identified the liminal kind of trancy place that I was in. I was in a non-ordinary state of consciousness because I was a little bit high and I was falling asleep. And then I heard this clear as day, and it was their friend had died in that house. And I was hearing like their song, like one of their like favorite songs. And it was just like I heard, so it was uncanny. But in that moment, I understood like a lifetime of weird stuff that I had just taken for granted, which is that I'm very, very clairaudient. And I would hear stuff like clear as day while I used to be a tailor and a costume designer. And I would be in these kind of sewing trances. Like I would be in a total flow state, sewing for like 3 hours or something. And I would hear like clear auditory phenomena, and then I would like be like, what is that? And so I would get up, get out of my trance, essentially go looking for where the source, and then come back to my song and be like, all right, it was weird, and go back and then get it again. So I kind of, in that one weird experience that night, I realized like the responsibility of the trance to help me get that clairaudient information. And then I was more able to control it, just understanding what the trance kind of offered me, this information in this way. So I could turn it off or I could dial it up and stuff like that. So that's one of the things that, like, a lifetime of weird experiences made sense in just this one thing that happened during the course of my training.
Yeah, I want to return to that word control for a second because I from what I've read, you have a very good spin on it. And I think it's going to answer the concern of the audience, which might be, am I out of control when I'm in hypnosis? What is your take on that? What does the word control mean, and how does it relate to the trance states that you like to cultivate?
Yeah. Well, I call hypnosis a state of autonomy. Trances are autonomous, sovereign states. It's you coming into control of your own experience. That's what we need to like help people understand. And maybe the old way of talking about hypnosis, like I deliver you suggestions while you're in a state of heightened suggestibility and deep relaxation, like that doesn't resonate with anyone anymore. That people want to be in control. They want to be autonomous. And I love working with people who think they're too controlling to experience hypnosis, because I just simply explain this to them, explain kind of what's happening like in the brain maybe, and then just let them know, like, if you're controlling, like, that's great. This is going to work really well. This is going to go exactly how you want it to go, because it's like, I'm not doing anything to you. So yeah, trances are these like opportunities for you to come into control of your own experiences. It's energetic autonomy, spiritual autonomy, it's just experiential autonomy. That's what I like to frame it as. You're just in control of this experience. Yeah.
This is interesting. So let me ask you this then. Do you feel that how am I going to word this? To me, there is, and there's a parallel between magic and hypnosis. And what it is that, especially, and the best example I can think of this is the suggestibility tests. There's certain suggestibility tests that are designed to open the door to trance using physiological phenomenon, even more than suggestion, and the line between suggestion and the physiological blend. Your fingers are outstretched, and yes, they're going to come together naturally. Sorry to give this away to people out there, but yes, it is a trick hypnotists use. Physiologically, your fingers are going to come together, and a hypnotist can, I've even used the term or heard the term hijack the trance state. Hijack, which to me implies like, okay, there is a little bit of dubiousness perhaps with hypnotists. There is a little bit of like, I need to figure out in this moment what is going to be my in. Either you're very disarming, Desiree, or you feel like you don't have to do that, and maybe there's like a better way. What is your take on the idea of needing to be stealthy to get someone into a trance state? Do you feel that you have to at all? Yeah. What is your? I feel like it's not, but I'm curious.
Yeah, and I like those suggestibility tests. I like to call them imagination games, because they are kind of showing, and I will debunk that one, the magnetic fingers one that you were just kind of talking about. But it's also cool because, yeah, it's just showing you, like, when you focus, you're just like putting your awareness towards something. And like the lemon one is my favorite, because almost everyone gets that, like almost everyone can think about biting into a lemon and get a little salivation going. And I think the trickery is one of the things that we have to kind of move away from. We're in the information age. People want to know, and they deserve to know kind of what's going on. And we don't have to trick your subconscious mind into doing anything. Like, you're in trances all the time. In fact, I always like to say you have 2 free self-hypnosis sessions every day, when you wake up in the morning and when you fall asleep at night. And, start playing around in those places. And then you're going to see that you actually have trances throughout the day. And hypnosis is only different in that you are consciously, autonomously entering into one of these natural shifts of consciousness, which is a trance, to make some changes or make some discoveries in your own mind. And that's what we're doing. So yeah, the trickery, I don't use that. And I feel like it's one of the things that we have to move away from. It makes hypnosis seem more difficult and less like accessible to people when you can just like stare out the window. That's what I do. That's my favorite trance, is just like I'm right now looking at some trees out my window and I can go somewhere right now. Like,
Yeah.
so let people discover what their trances are. And that's just such good information for people to know about themselves,
So do
right?
you operate outside of the frame's resistant client then? I mean, how do you, I can't get into the hypnosis. You'll never be able to hypnotize me. I mean, are you able to circumnavigate that somehow?
Yeah, I mean, I don't get a lot of those clients. I think because of kind of who I work with a lot of spiritual people, a lot of witches. They're maybe already familiar with meditation and trances and such. So I don't get a lot of that. And if I do, um, yeah, I mean, I operate with like an extremely permissive style. It's always an invitation. And resistance kind of can come up, I think, when people are being delivered, you know, words or being delivered an affirmation that doesn't resonate with them. I think that's what really creates the resistance and doesn't allow for that beautiful change to take place. And whatever, I don't even have to know how it's going to happen. They don't even have to know. And that's where the mystery comes in again. Like, let the, respect the mystery and just like be curious, open your mind to how this might unfold in your life too. I mean, we'll future pace and we'll do all of these things to make sure that these changes kind of show, have places to live in your life. But we don't, sometimes amazing things happen that weren't intended. And that is always great. Like sometimes little side things get resolved and we never meant for that to happen, but it's just part of like, the little domino effect.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I don't get a ton of resistant clients, but if I do, I'm very permissive. So I don't think it's an issue really.
Yeah. What do you think about, I mean, you're saying that trickery doesn't need to be involved and that you have a permissive style. I mean, I can see why with the microdosing that you do, the tracks that you drop that are microdoses, people would resonate with that, especially when it's permissive. What do you think working with a hypnotist does that the tracks do not?
Oh yeah, it's totally different too. I mean, there is something about, just the whole process. Like the way I teach it too is like there's this spiritual pilgrimage that is taking place on your way to sitting there with the client, or sitting there with your hypnotist if you are a client. Like there's so much that your subconscious is starting to prepare for. You're allocating the time, you're allocating the money, your brain is wiring around this already. So there's something really important in that. And then sitting with someone that you chose, to sit with and close your eyes. It's such like a vulnerable thing for a lot of people. A lot of people, like a lot of my clients will cry and they're like, I don't know why I'm crying even before we get to anything sometimes. And I'm like, yeah, because you are like about to like make some shifts and you're aware of that on some level. Like, it's rare that we hold ourselves in this still quiet kind of place with somebody else right there, whether we're in person or even online. It's beautiful and people don't always do that for themselves. So I just think I'm going on a tangent. I have like a million things I want to say, but I don't
Now,
even
this is
remember.
good. This is all good stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The tracks are great because one, they're like giving you skills, they're training you for future situations. I'll always like teach how you can use them for other things. And, they're amazing. But yeah, sitting with someone, you don't know what's going to come up there, and the hypnotist doesn't know. That's why I think it's so important. Like in my first training, I was really taught to like fill a lot of the space with words and just these, nonsensical things. And I even think that's a little bit trickery, like a little bit of confusion inductions. Like I
For
understand how that
sure.
works. It's cool, but like I don't think it's necessary. I want to let people be in awe of their own mind and learn how to like be in the stillness of their own mind, especially because a lot of my clients are younger, they're phone addicts. They go to sleep with their phone in their face. It's really hard for them to close their eyes and be faced with their own, that's yours. Like that's all yours when you close your eyes. And like let's start to get comfortable there. You know, that's like an important place. Like, let's start to like have you go to bed without your phone and let the last, 5 minutes of your day be in your like last trance of the day. Practice a little self-hypnosis and just see how that changes your life.
How has it changed yours? What things have happened with you right before bed that you've seen manifest in your world?
Oh yeah. I mean, so I love sleep. I'm like a little bit of a like yeah, it's a huge priority for my life. One of the things is like sleep is so important because this is our time. Like what are we going to sleep for? Like we all have an outward goal in our day in the world, even if it's just to get through a work day or whatever, but we're all working for something, right? But like what are we going to sleep for? I think I like ask all my clients, even if they're not coming to me for that, like, like start prioritizing sleep. Start telling your subconscious mind, this is my time, this is for me. And then it makes it easier to get those voices out of your head because you got some work to do. This is yours. Like, and sleep is the office hours of the subconscious mind. You can dream program, you can ask for signs from spirit or from your guides or just from your own subconscious mind. You can ask for like healing or hypnosis or processing to be done in sleep. And I also work with the god Hypnos, who is the god of sleep, and also hypnosis by association, strong association. So when we start to practice self-hypnosis before sleep and we dedicate it to Hypnos, and we could just have like all this amazing stuff happen in our sleep, and then waking up in our first trance of the day and just lollygagging there in the hypnopompic state for a few minutes. That's when I get like amazing auditory like information, like voice messages from beyond that are so profound and so resonant in my life. Like, so that has changed my life. I have received in my sleep a whole course curriculum, a 4-week course about dreams. In my dreams, it arrived. And that was one of the things that financially made it so I could move from New York to California during the pandemic at a time when I literally had no money. So I'm just working with your sleep and prioritizing sleep and saying, this is mine. Like, this is time for just me. What do I want this to be about, tonight or in general? It's so empowering.
Have you, I mean, look, and again, you seem predisposed to having these spiritual experiences, and you've been in these transpersonal realms. But what about people that are maybe not spiritual healers, but they go, okay, Desiree, you tell me something is going to happen if I go into trance before sleep. Let's see. Like, have you followed up on any students that have done this and they've been like, "Whoa, I did not expect to see these color creatures every morning." Or yeah, but what have you heard
Yeah.
anecdotally?
Yeah, I'm like, oh, now I'm like, let me try to think of some actual stories. But yeah, I mean, people are surprised, but there's so much there. And it's just the intention. It's just like with hypnosis, like just setting that intention is, it's just like you're telling your whole brain and being, this is important. Now there's a new, like, way to kind of engage with this normal, mundane aspect of your life. I'm trying to, I don't know if I have a story right now, but I'm sure one will come
It'll
momentarily.
come.
But yeah,
Uh,
just like major part of like how I frame hypnosis, like those two trances, your two, first and last trance of the day.
well,
That's
in general, I'm sure you've had people that were surprised by their ability to control their consciousness, probably in ways that they never saw before. I mean, actually, I know that's true because um, I'm reading all the testimonials that you've done or that have been written about you and your work. I mean, it sounds like, wouldn't just be this isn't just an extension of the Calm app here. You're going into some deeper stuff. Actually, yeah, let me ask you that. Meditation versus
yeah,
trance.
yeah.
What do you where do we go from there? How do we understand the difference?
I got a lot to say on this, but like you mentioned the Calm app, and it's not the Calm app, but I do like to talk about this. The Insight Timer app, hypnosis is a prohibited topic on there. Did you know that? In their
I
terms
have
of
no idea.
these are the prohibited topics on Insight Timer: um, hate speech, hyper politicized content, and hypnosis and sexual content. That's where we hang out on the Insight Timer world. So, I mean, like that
Wow.
is wild to me, and that I'm on a mission to like have people just understand hypnosis. That's wild. But I digress. Hypnosis versus meditation. Yes. This is why I love the microdosing aspect, the kind of the metaphor of microdosing to like take the pressure off. You don't need to go wandering in your mind. You don't need to like even let the thoughts pass. Like that is not the goal. Hypnosis is so accessible. And this is why I think people really need it, because it's like targeted. It's like very much like, we can localized. It is like a solid framework, and it's all organizing around some thing. So there's less chance, like the metaphor I like to use is like, if you're not an experienced hiker and you're just going to go off on this trail and you don't have water or GPS and a map or anything, you like, who knows what's going to happen? You could fall off a cliff. There could be a mudslide. I don't know. We're in California here. It's like anything could happen.
True.
And then like, but hypnosis is almost like going with a guide who knows the territory. It's an easy trail. There's guardrails. You're not going to go off course, or it's less likely. There is a woman named Willoughby Britton who does research in the adverse effects of meditation. And my mentor, Lori Hammond, actually like sent me a podcast of her on the Tim Ferriss talking about her research. And I was like, I love this, because to me, this makes a case for hypnosis, because a lot of people who experience adverse effects of meditation are people who have a lot of trauma lurking, and they're not ready to be confronted by it. And they're not really well prepared to go walking off into the darkness of their own subconscious mind. Like they're not there yet. Like, and I think hypnosis can be actually a great way to kind of get there, to just learn what it's like to engage with your mind in these more structured, more, contained experiences. I really view hypnosis as this like really nice container. And it's more of a safe journey. It's like, where the end is. It's not going to stir anything up, or it's less likely, especially if you're well trained. You're not going to reach one, or yeah.
You bring something up really interesting. I talked to a friend about this recently, because he's had some adverse effects from meditation practice, and also, I mean, just listening to tons and tons of content about non-dualism and being one consciousness. And I'm sitting here going, how is it possible that getting deeper into Eastern philosophy and Alan Watts, and then the living of it, the supposed awakened state, causes disassociation for people and psychological breakdowns? And there's a lot of their retreats on this. I mean, I always held this thing to be the idealized state of humanity. This is self-actualization, feeling one with everything, breaking down mind, body, and yet people are having this reaction. I haven't seen like a recovery for victimized trance subjects from the act of trance. I mean, obviously there's like people that have abused hypnosis, especially with the sexual predator thing. That's where hypnosis really, it's where both of us have our work cut out for us, where it's like, yeah, okay, yeah, this lawyer is a creep, and he definitely did take abuse of divorced women by putting them into trance. And they like, this stuff happens. It's a tool. You can abuse the tool, but the actual idea of trance dissociation, or people that see hypnotists for years and all of a sudden it's like, oh, going into all those trances effed me up. Haven't seen too much research on that yet. What's going on there? What do you think? I gave you a lot, but yeah, unpack that. Like, what's the consciousness that's safer in trance, maybe, than non-dualism?
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I understand from my personal experience too, like that non-dual kind of, I mean, it's, this is why I like let's go back to microdosing, because it's like, it's just like these less pressure. So as somebody who like, I worked in the Akashic records, and I liken this to, like, I read a lot of psychedelic accounts, people on like, amazing psychedelic experiences. To me, I think they're accessing the same place as the Akashic field. And when I read those things, I'm like, this is exactly how I experienced it, or how someone I guided into the Akashic field experienced it. Like, it's, and it is it's not for everyone, because you come down back to reality, and it's not easy to integrate that amazing feeling back into, especially like when I was really into it was in New York City. Like, it's rough sometimes. You got to stand on the subway for an hour among like really intense people, and it's like this, like I would rather be there, like, and it's just like, I don't know. So I think that's why I think hypnosis is a pretty good, I mean, and that's not to say that, I mean, because hypnosis is unregulated, and I don't even know if regulation would help. I don't know what that would be, but being more permissive, allowing people to come into contact with that, you know, part of themselves that is kind of automating their experience and just coming to collaborate with the part of themselves that is going to make them more intuitive. It's going to make decisions easier. It's just how it is. And you don't really know that. I mean, like, people don't realize that intuition is actually a part of you. Like, you are like, it's a biological thing. You're like meant to understand things about someone on sight. Like, we are supposed to do that. But we have no way of rationalizing it. So we just kind of live with anxiety because we can't rationalize how we feel about this person until they prove it to us. And then, that's problematic. So this is not even an answer to your question at all, but
why is trance safer than non-dualism,
uh,
you think, from a neuroscientific perspective? Because I know you delve into that, or just any scientific perspective, in your opinion. Yeah.
because we're making a choice. We're talking about one thing, hopefully, in hypnosis. Like, let's direct this all towards one thing. And how will shifting that one thing actually open your mind as to other ways you can come into control of your experience too? That's like one of the amazing things about hypnosis, and why I get so many referrals, because people just like, they're like, I was capable of that. Like, that was just in me. And it's from making that choice, from directing all your resources for just like 45 minutes. My sessions are kind of short, under an hour. Sometimes they go over, but usually it's like less than an hour. And just directing all of your resources towards this thing. I just think there's something really, that's a big deal to
Yeah.
make this choice, to claim this. And in hypnosis there's a lot of stuff built in, like the intake form, and I teach that consultations are necessary, because that's more of a chance for them to make sure they're ready for the change. We would call maybe being at threshold, like that they're there and they're ready, and they're taking all these little steps that are allocating their resources towards this one thing. And I just think there's something really like important about moving towards one thing than like the everything. I love that, but
Totally.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, that's the in Hypnosis 101. Every single model that I've ever encountered of hypnosis talks about focus. Um, you gotta, it's the way to get into a trance state. It's the way to resolve. It's not, I don't know. Look, I would be amazed. I think it would be very hard for a hypnotist to be like, okay, weight loss, confidence, memory retention. We're going to hit all three of them in one session right now. It never works as well. It always seems to be one issue at a time, and often not even in the same session. You shouldn't, I mean, yeah, or like, I wouldn't even, from what I understand, you could do like an hour of someone with confidence. And it's not necessarily even a great idea to like take a half-hour break and then do the next hour on weight loss. Like, these things take a while to integrate. Now, that said, Desiree, I'm not opposed to, as I throw this at you, I'm like, I wonder what would happen in a case like that. Like, I do think there's more experimentation that needs to happen. Or at least I need to read more on it, because I know Milton Erickson did a lot of this stuff, and I know there've been a lot of tests on it, but I think you're absolutely right. There's something about grounding it in one point of focus at a time that helps people that might be prone to psychotic episodes, or just like, I don't know, just kind of a state of non-grounding internally, where, yeah, something that's not that focused could be dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like coming back to that framework. It's like we're just like building this little, it's like it's structured, and I just think that's important. It's contained. Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. What have you I mean, I know you do microdoses. Okay, well, actually, let's start with this. So you're doing these sessions, but where does microdosing fit in? You said you don't smoke weed anymore. Were you actually microdosing? Where?
I feel like my Capricorn personality is like, it's a very sober personality for the most part. So no, my partner at that time used to smoke weed to go to sleep, and every now and again I would join her, but I don't smoke. It was never a part of my life. And same with the psychedelics and stuff. No, I don't do that. I have hypnosis and I have my mind, but like that's just my preferred way of working with my mind. I've had a lot of practice at it and I feel comfortable with it. So maybe I live in California now. It's huge here. Maybe I would try, but it's not. I go to a lot of psychedelics conferences. I'm just really interested in the research and really interested in like the role that hypnotists could play in that space. And I think, a lot of people in that space are also interested. I just went to 2 conferences, talked to a lot of people, and they're fascinated by hypnosis after they get done with talking to me. They're like, wow, there's a role for hypnosis in this, and they're excited to explore states that don't require molecules to get there. So I just think it's just exciting. But what was the question?
It was about microdosing. Where did the term microdosing hypnosis come from that you've coined?
Yeah. So it's like a metaphor on microdosing. So James Fadiman is one of the like oldest psychedelics people at the forefront of psychedelics, and he's kind of popularized it. He didn't invent it, but he's been at it since the 60s. I just got to meet him. One of my like friends
That's cool.
he's a mentor. James is his mentor, so I got to meet him at a conference just a few weeks ago, and he's like 95, I think.
Wow.
And still, like, yeah, he's been in the psychedelics research since the 60s. And he says microdosing isn't necessarily a small dose. It works on a different principle entirely. And that's how I view like microdosing hypnosis. It's not, going into a totally altered state of consciousness. It's kind of just like dipping in and just like testing out like low pressure, low stakes, learning more about what your mind is capable of and how just that awareness impacts your life in a more general sense. And I do believe hypnosis belongs in the everyday lives of people. That's why I make these things. So if you're really busy, or if you are, ADHD and really can't sit still, like, it doesn't require deep relaxation. What if we just start doing these little things? What if you can set aside 7 minutes, or 10 minutes or 13 minutes and practice it once a day, twice a day? So yeah, I started doing it for that, just to give people more of like this skill set of working with their mind and getting more from their, gaining control over their experience in life. And yeah, that's kind of what it's about. It's about like opening their mind to what is possible. And then if they want to go into deeper trances, that is great, but it's not really the goal.
Interesting. Do people I mean, you clearly have testimonials. I'm just curious, kind of from a technical hypnosis perspective, like why does it work? Because everything that we were taught of these trainings are, you got to get them into, you start with a light state and then you deepen and you deepen and then on the other side of it, people go, yeah, but affirmations don't work because, you're just like lobbing words at people and you're not conditioning the mind to open up to the possibilities. I mean, what is this in between space that you've found and why do you think it's been effective for people?
Yeah. Well, one of the things, I don't use deepeners very much. And actually, I want my clients to remember their experience in hypnosis. And this is one of the things that actually really came up when I started working online. Because before that, I was working in person in New York, before the pandemic. And then all of a sudden I had to like work online for the first time ever. And I was like, well, my old ways of doing hypnosis don't really translate to Zoom, because I was getting people really relaxed and, my first 2 clients fell asleep. So I'm like, not good. I have to change things up and I want to do a more active style. But when I started working that way, I started getting more clients who identify as autistic or neurodivergent or, having PTSD. these are people who don't necessarily feel safe in their own body, and they feel safer when they can remember their experience and they can hear me and they know what's happening during that. So I think that there's something really important in that for, like, especially for younger people, who a lot of them really do identify as, like having a hyper activated nervous system, like, or hyper vigilant. It's important for them to know, and every memory turns into a tool. So I just like don't bring people into a very deep state. I think it would be different if I were working in person more. I love that in person thing and knowing that I am here with them, but when we're working at a distance, it's great if they can remember it, because all of those tools, I'll tell them, everything from this experience is now a memory that you can use as a self-hypnosis tool, and what if you go back into this place before bed and, engage in that, hypnagogic little last trance of the day and start, playing around in this place that you loved so much in hypnosis, or this feeling that you got, or that color that came up. What if we just go to sleep in that and you pull that over as a shroud over your eyes, that color, and just like let yourself fall asleep with that color of, safety or bliss or whatever their little thing that they got from that. But yeah, so I think the microdosing is just like, it's just a way to introduce people to this, these kinds of transformative things, and keeping people into a lighter place where they have a memory of it. And then all of a sudden it is this life skill that they have. And it's not just some, like, yes, I love the mystery and the mystery comes up and we don't know how it's going to unfold in their life all the time. But like, yeah, what I said to you in hypnosis, it doesn't have to be a mystery. If you want to hear it all, you can hear it all. If you're fidgeting the whole time, that's okay. If you have to open your eyes, it's cool. Like,
Yeah. Do you feel that have you ever played with, or do you have like conditioning sessions to get them ready for the microdoses, or can people could just drop in?
yeah, people can just drop in. Yeah. And they
Oh,
do. It's just
interesting.
like hardly an induction in them. It's really just like take a deep breath. And, it anchors, if you listen to a lot, I have hundreds of them. So, if you listen to them, you're already kind of primed to go right in, because it's just, you're just going right into an experience. And people do have great experiences from that. They get, I put out a few about allergies a few weeks ago, and somebody couldn't even believe that they got instantaneous relief from a 7-minute track on allergies, like, and then I got such good results from that I made a second one the next week of like, coming up with an allergy origin story, like, what does this do for you? Why did this come into being? And it was just wild. A student who's also a member, they were like, whoa, like that was wild. I got something like, and that was in 7 minutes. Like, it doesn't take a lot. Your brain wants to do this. Your mind, your subconscious, it's like, it's there, it's ready, it's responsive. And like, we just give it a chance, like it'll say something, it'll give you something. We just have to like set those expectations. So I think that's really what it's about. And when you set the expectations that it's easy and it doesn't take a lot, and you don't have to be, deeply relaxed and highly suggestible, a lot of magic can still happen.
Yeah. And we're going to link everybody to this microdose of hypnosis membership, which is less than that's the classic line, less than $1 a day. No, but I mean, and especially when you're getting like this access to the archives and stuff. I mean, it's like, and yeah, but it's very cool stuff. Live support. It seems like you're active there. People are raving about this. I think it's uh, wow, more impactful than microdosing psilocybin, someone said. What in the world? That's pretty powerful.
Yes, a highly respected teacher of mine said that they wish to remain anonymous.
Wow, 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 wow. Super interesting. What do you think? Hmm. Are you playing around with trance at all? Do you like to explore with it? I mean, what are some of your, or you talk about the future of hypnosis and what it could be. And I'm asking this from the perspective of creating a state that could be as powerful as a psychedelic without ever needing a psychedelic. I spoke to Jess Marion about this. She goes, nah, you gotta have the earth drugs are gonna open you up first, and then you can go back. They talk about the drug of choice, induction, replaying events that your brain has already gone through. I mean, but I'm sitting here going, this is a pretty interesting place that we don't know that much about. Why? What are the far edges of where we could go with it?
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like I have had straight up psychedelic experiences in trances by choosing to engage with the Akashic field. And to me, that is like that's my drug of choice. So I know, like, there's a lot that goes into, yeah, like the substances, they have their place, and the plant medicine, and they have their spirits too. And there's like so much in that, but also the Akashic field. So like Akasha is like, it just means primary substance, the all, that from which all is formed, that it, and I liken it to like the Wi-Fi of the universe. It's like, it's invisible, it's all around us. We don't know it's there unless we look at our phone, we see we have bars, we go to Google and type in a question and receive an answer. You can receive so much amazing guidance and information or healing visions, like anything that you want, by engaging with that space. And all it takes is your intention. And I actually use the magnetic fingers, like quote unquote suggestibility test, to kind of talk about, or to kind of metaphorically acknowledge this. There is no such thing as empty space. So I think it's a Dutch physicist, Hendrik Casimir, in the 40s, demonstrated there's no such thing as empty space, that even in a vacuum, all of this energy is taking up, quantum fields, and all these like little interactions are actually causing two things to move towards each other with pressure, the pressure generated by the momentum in empty space, even in a vacuum, that happens. So I use that magnetic fingers to demonstrate that outside, it's like this outside pressure coming in to bring things together, and that is this invisible Wi-Fi that we have access to. And then if you want to get clearer, and you can just ask for healing, you can ask for insight, you can time it, you can say, I want it to come in tomorrow's shower, like when I'm in the shower, and it will. But it's just important to know that that's there. And the more we can, just like we would in hypnosis, clarify the question or clarify our intention, get clearer, more focused, the more clear answer we'll receive, the more information we'll receive. So, if you were to type into Google cat, there would be tons of cats. There would be like lions, Garfield, cat memes, cute cat videos. But if you were to type in like, a Norwegian mountain cat, young kitten or something, then that's more specific, and you're getting more tailored information, and or Norwegian forest cat, whatever. Yeah, so the more kind of specific we can get information from there. It's the Wi-Fi, it's the all connected everything, and it's beautiful. And life isn't the same after you have that. That's why it's not always for everyone, because you come down and then you have to integrate it into reality. And then it's like, sometimes reality can pale in comparison. And, so yeah, that's why I wouldn't, take just anyone there, but people have amazing psychedelic experiences in the Akashic field. So I do a few trainings, like maybe like once a year, bringing people there in a way. I've done trainings to work with it and to do readings. And I intended to, bring that into my hypnosis practice pretty early on. But one of the things I saw is a byproduct of hypnosis is coming into contact with the everything. So people get more sometimes than, they get things that they didn't expect, and beneficial things, because we're putting that intention into the session as well. So yeah, so I just take people to their own Akashic, like just guide them there and let them learn their signs. Because the way I was taught, and this is how I kind of view everything I was taught, was pretty constrictive. And what if we can open this up to different, learning styles, different ways of experiencing, and let everyone have access? So when I teach people how to access their Akashic records or the Akashic field, they know, because they'll have certain physiological signs and or other kinds of signs, that they're connected. And that is their then hall pass, where they can kind of come back to that place. So yeah, I don't know. I think the Akashic field, the Akasha is like the ultimate psychedelic experience, and we all have access. That's where we came from. That's where we're going. That's like everyone should take a
Yeah.
visit.
Well, look, I mean, I'm sitting here going, Desiree, take me there, please. And the reason I'm saying that is because, this is another thing I've asked people on the show, and it usually comes down to like, you're gonna have a meditation practice. Okay, sure. But do you? Because I would love to have what I'm thinking of like every single sci-fi show or Three Body Problem specifically. I would love to put on my goggles of trance and all of a sudden, boom, I'm dropped into a world and it is like a full-blown hallucination. I'm like, whoa, holy crow, this is like I'm not here anymore. Which it sounds like you've been pretty close to. Um, what is it? Do you feel like everybody can go there? I mean, how can someone that is really not too deep in the phenomena experience something as otherworldly as that?
Yeah, great question. In their dreams, put it to your dreams. Like, and actually, that's one of the ways, because as much as I really love the mystical and the weird, I also have this other part of my mind that wants to understand and wants it to make sense. And like, I acknowledge that part of myself. And I just like to say, okay, like if I receive it in my dreams, I'm like a total open vessel. That's where guides can come to me. That's what I always say. It's the office hours of the subconscious mind. It's like I'm out, my conscious mind is totally out of the way. So setting intentions for incredible dream experiences, like that is a great way to passively receive. And sometimes when I want really like specific information from the Akashic records, I ask to get it in dreams, and I always get it that way because there's less conscious resistance, so on my part, even as practiced as I am as going into trance and believing in all the weird stuff, I still sometimes do have a little bit of resistance, and I know that I can get this pure unfiltered information in my dreams because my conscious mind is out of the way. So dream work.
That's interesting. How close are you able to bring dream work into a waking hypnosis session?
Yeah, I mean, I use dreams as an analogy a lot because, well, we wake up in a dream, and not everyone realizes that. But when you're waking up, you're actually like waking up from a dream, whether you slept really shallow or you had a really nice deep sleep. And by just practicing that, playing around in that hypnopompic state, just that waking little bit of a liminal state, you can have an amazing lucid experience. That's actually when you're most likely to lucid dream, is in that last two dreams of the night. So you'll be waking
Yes.
from what is potentially a lucid dream. And if it's not, and you're still kind of awake, you can turn it into one. And because of that, you're consciously aware that you're dreaming, but you also have a little bit of control over the dream. That's where you can, start to understand hypnosis as a little bit of like a lucid dream experience. So what if I use it's like a hypnopompic induction where we kind of go back into, imagine you're in bed, waking up this morning and just waking up from a dream, and then just take a few steps back into that place, where you're kind of aware that you're awake, but you're not fully, you're kind of in two places at once, and then just bring a dream into that, and then let the dream, show itself, let the symbols arise that want to, but also knowing that you have this collaborative relationship with this dream now where you can take control over some of these symbols or change it up. And so yeah, I bring it into hypnosis a lot, the idea of a lucid dream where you're receiving from your subconscious, but you also are collaborating, you have control over it too.
Is this what the ancient civilizations were doing?
I mean, who can really say, but I think so.
Well, I guess what I also mean is that I think it is interesting that we focus a lot on the technology and reviving the magic, and it feels like it's outside of the person that we're trying to wake up. When people always talk about, like, let's go back, where's the magic on this earth? People used to build the pyramids and all this stuff. There's that, but I'm going, yeah, but Desiree almost sounds like she wants a world where people can access the Akashic records when they want to.
Yeah.
And I would love that world. Is that what the ancient mind technology That is what I'm curious about. I know they meditate. I know shamans and the elders and their different forms of this, but I'm curious if, that's just like a more tangible way to imagine what magic on this earth would be like if we could lead everybody to access the Akashic records.
I mean, I think so. Well, it's also like, it just, it is a little bit of that, like, I mean, you feel that sense of boundlessness, like they talk about in psychedelics, oceanic boundlessness, this interconnectivity to everything and nature and humanity. And it's like, it wakes you up a little bit, it makes you want to do a little bit better, like, and just live a little bit better and realize your place in the, like, the divine order of things. And it's like that zoomed out perspective, that is unforgettable, like, like the overview effect or whatever, when like people go into space and or what is it called, not the overview, is that what it's called? I don't remember, but when they're in space and they look down and they see our planet, this place where we live, just in this float as this blue pearl floating in a vast sea of the universe. It's like that changes the way that you experience life. It can't not. You can't forget it. And sometimes it's people say they feel this sense sometimes of like hopelessness even, or like they get a little bit depressed. And that's how I feel in the Akashic records too. I know people with psychedelic experiences that feel that way too, because it's like such a beautiful thing. And you can't really live there. You have to be in this, human experience. But how does that change how you do this human experience?
How does it for you?
For me, it keeps me on my mission of like just bringing hypnosis to people. That's my like,
Yeah.
as I really feel that people need it. And again, it's that coming back to like feeling in control over their own experience. People who a lot of young people get shit for being snowflakes or being triggered. And it's like, what if they could just, like come to a more slightly neutral place? And, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world that they're being really vocal about, and it's important. And we need them to keep going because like I'm tired and jaded, to be honest. And like a lifetime of like activism and caring about stuff. Sometimes you just
Yeah.
focus on me for a while, but I didn't have all of that understanding when I was younger. So like younger people who are like activists and stuff, like they need to know how to control their nervous system, how to control their state to, replenish their energy or to conserve their energy. It's so important. Like it's a life skill. And I think for the younger generations, it's like really important. Like we need them doing all the things that they're doing. And how can they train themselves to just like be a little bit more like, I don't know, like solid in the face of all the weird stuff happening in the world.
That's totally true. And also, I mean, a question that has been thrown at me before is, yo, when are you going to start the change of the world? Don't just wait for it to change. What are you doing, Greg, to change it? When are you going to go into the peaceful state of mind that others are going to model and feel from you, and then it'll be like a force multiplier? I mean, I do wonder if sometimes activism gets in the way of self-discovery and maybe just self-development. I feel like there's a lot of room. A lot of people get angry first. I do think there are a lot of things to get angry about, and I do wonder if people miss the message of being the example in the world they want to manifest.
Yeah. And that's, it's like we are wired to focus on the negative. And it's just like it's easy for us to do that. And I think we tend to forget how equally important, if not more important, to embody like what we want to see and what we want to be. I mean, and that's one of the things that hypnosis has helped me with so much. Like I can't even imagine what my life would be like without it, without knowing how to kind of just like, I don't know, just exist and
Were you
be.
angry? Did you like throw staplers at bosses you hated? Like what?
No, but just like feeling, someone, feeling, I mean,
Or
I've
just
had
empathetic, taking on the world's pains,
yeah, the
not being
world's
able.
pain as an empath, totally. As someone who, you know, I've experienced sexual assault in my life, and also even, you know, living in Brooklyn, I was in a same-sex relationship, and my partner and I were threatened, we had our lives threatened, for just being in a relationship that we were in, like for just existing. And if I didn't have hypnosis at that time, I mean, like it was serious. It was serious. And I just am so glad that I had that tool to feel a little bit more neutral in that situation so that you can respond in a way, you know, there's just so much polarization. I don't know. I think one of the things that hypnosis has really helped me with is to understand neutrality, where when I was younger, maybe I didn't understand neutrality and it sounded like passive or like something. I see the value in it now. I see the importance in it now. And it is so important to have a little bit of that, or a stoicism kind of.
Yeah, I was going
It's
to say, talk about that a little more because you're actually one of the first people I've heard ever really put neutrality and hypnosis together. I usually hear it in the context of stoicism. I also hear it in the context of almost the hermetic principles. For every negative, there's a positive. Um, and to me, at least my understanding of hypnosis, or at least the way it's commonly taught, is that it's like um it, you could just balance the negative. Here's what it is. There's a lot of NLP techniques. Like I'm thinking of the visual squash technique, which is like you've got the negative emotion here, and then you think of the positive, and you put them in like one in each hand. You anchor it, you push it together, and all of a sudden it neutralizes the feeling. But I also feel that hypnosis sometimes pushes you to not just go neutral. I feel like it's saying, no, 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 replace this negative with a positive. Now you're going to feel joy. You're going to feel peaceful about it. But I'm not always sure that works. Where is there room more for neutral versus just getting rid of the bad feelings and replacing them with positive ones? How do you differentiate between that?
Such an awesome thing to talk about. We don't talk about that enough. And that's one of the things that kind of drives me a little bit crazy about hypnosis, as I've kind of seen people like it, that, you know, some certain styles of hypnosis feel very prescriptive and very like, yeah, like let's shove this good thing in this place where this thing was. And I don't think that's our job, actually. Like, you know, so like magic loves a void. The universe loves a void. It's going to fill it. There's no such thing as empty space. Coming back to the Casimir effect, and like, you know, we have to kind of be a little bit open to synchronicity. And that's where in my way of working, is like, we can leave it a little bit open and let's see what magic unfolds and fills in. Like it's very presumptive to always know what to fill in that space with that thing that we kind of just acknowledge and just, you know, so we transmute a lot. Yes. So we do trade, you know, kind of one thing for another and do that. But I don't think we have to fill in every empty space. I think that's for living in life. And actually, I think that's what makes for more, it's not always the most instantaneous way of like those instant results, but it fits. I think it's longer term. It fits in with their life. And there's like an example that I had a few like months ago in my own life where I saw like, you know, it wasn't a hypnosis session. It was like just, you know, my understanding of hypnosis and how it allowed for this kind of, I like, this is what I do with clients. And it just kind of showed me. So I set a goal, like, I'm like, at some point I started eating dessert. I'm like, I never ate dessert after dinner, like every night. That just wasn't part of my lifestyle. It was weird, but it happened during the pandemic. I started like eating dessert and now I want dessert every night. Like, I need to stop that. Like, what can I do? And I just like put it in the back of my mind, like, you know, and then I was like, I also, yeah, it just has to do with this like goddess relationship that I have. And I saw this tea at like, you know, several days later that was on sale at Whole Foods. It's normally like $14 for this fancy tea. And it was on sale for like $8.99. I was like, yeah, I'm going to get it. It's a deal. and I got it. And I realized like, oh, this is how I can, you know, kind of, I'll just have the tea. My goddess likes it as an offering. And I'll just like do the tea, commune with a goddess, skip dessert, and that's how it fits in with the lifestyle. So I think it's like one of those things where in hypnosis we want that a lot of hypnotists, I think a lot of hypnotists get into it because they're a little bit dopaminergic. They like those quick wins. They like being facilitating, or sometimes in some cases, maybe being responsible for, as they see it, somebody's transformation. I'm not like really that set on being responsible. I just want it to last. I want it to fit in their life in the way that makes sense now. Because if it doesn't, then it's not going to last, you know? So I don't know, just like leaving that open, letting your subconscious mind, like honoring its intelligence. It's this thing that's running in the background that wants to automate experience according to what it thinks is important to you. And now we're placing all this emphasis on what's important to you. We've opened up this space, and now like just let life fill it in and make it make sense for you as it is right now, right? I don't know.
Yes, but then let me ask you this. And maybe this is just the cynicism in me, but why do you think then that some people regress, or not even regress? Because I know there's a classic smoking kind of example that's like oh well, we didn't really get it. A year later, they're back to cigarettes, and oh, we got to go deeper or something. But I more mean. Have you found that when you create this neutrality, I mean, by its very definition, there's a possibility that something bad could happen. Is there some sort of, uh, there is some kind of change happening, is there not, that allows them to have at least a slightly more positive response than what they were having before? I mean, how do you make sense of that?
Oh yeah. I mean, I guess I don't, then I'm maybe I was misunderstanding the initial question, but
No, I don't think you are. I think you've got it correct. I guess
yeah.
I'm wondering,
I don't know. I mean, positive, negative. That's what I'm saying. Hypnosis is a neutral tool. We can use it for good or bad. And when people come to me, they're using it for good because they want to change something in their life. But how they live their life is neither good nor bad either. It's like just how they choose to live. So I feel like, I mean, I don't think people, I feel like there's a sense of control. I think it comes back to that control. Like you are in control over your own experience. You know, I used to have chronic pain. I used to walk with a cane. I can
wow.
control with my mind. I was diagnosed with autoimmune disease. I had all of that, and I went off all my drugs, everything. And like I was, and that was before I understood hypnosis. I was just doing that with like meditation. I didn't really, and like lifestyle changes, stress, understanding like a nervous system a little bit. Like as somebody with like that always had thyroid issues, that comes back to, and that's why I'm interested in things like interpersonal neurobiology. To me, that's like the science of how healing works, how
Yeah,
Reiki.
tell me about that.
Yeah.
What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially like our nervous system is responsive to everyone and everything in our environment, and when we experience a metabolic deficit, that is draining us of our actual life force energy, as I like to think of it. So, like your metabolism in this life, this human life, is that's how your life force energy manifests, and we're giving that away at will when we allow people or things or situations to trigger us. So by becoming a little bit more neutral in response to things, we're conserving our own life force energy, and then we have more power and control over ourselves, our environment, and our responses to things. So not being at the mercy of the environment. So again, like this is in the early 2000s, I think it was like 2001, I saw a thyroid patient advocate, and she was basically telling me and my mom how to, because doctors aren't going to, especially at that time, they're not going to kind of treat you until it's too late. But we have to learn how to read our own blood work to see if we're at that point where we can actually do something about it. So we won't be on a prescription for the rest of our life. So in learning that, like, it was like she taught us all this stuff about numbers, blood tests, this and that, ask for this test, read these numbers this way. And then at the end, it was like, say no to things. Don't read the news so much. Like, don't, and it was like, and I didn't understand where that fit into all the blood work stuff and all the numbers and tests. But now I do, from my hypnosis mind, which got me into the interpersonal neurobiology, and this idea that like allowing yourself to constantly be triggered is you're expending part of your life force energy on a regular basis, just sapping it, just like letting it be sapped. And hypnosis and the idea of neutrality is just coming back into kind of control of that and not letting that happen. So I don't know. I think
It's
neutrality is
more,
really,
yeah, it's more. I mean, it comes back to the word control. It sounds like that I was going to ask you, where do you think neutrality fits into you not being able to walk, having to walk with a cane or getting sick? But to me, it means there was an aspect of your life that was out of control that you now have more control over, despite what we would call that as neutral.
yeah.
Did I sum it up? I didn't mean to take that. No, yeah,
Pondering that. Yeah.
yeah, that is super intriguing. And I definitely appreciate that foray into biology. I mean, I was going to ask you, because I know we've really gone into a lot of the metaphysical stuff, but you often talk about evidence-based and how a lot of recent discoveries in the past couple of years have supported the fringier aspects, perhaps, of hypnosis. I mean, what in science right now is exciting you? What is supporting this stuff that's making you go, yeah, see, we said it. It with them, the metaphysicists were there first.
I mean, there's so much, but it's funny because just recently, so I'm writing a book tentatively titled Microdosing Hypnosis, and I recently got a literary agent for that. And we're, wanting to educate the publishers about why hypnosis, because they're really, most hypnosis books are either self-published or through a university. And it really isn't really put out to the people as much as I want it to be. And that is my mission. So it's happening, but how to like let people know that this is for them. So we have a few cool colleagues. I love David Ruby. He's like the evidence-based hypnosis guy. He did a guest lecture for my students like a few months ago. And James Harrison, I don't know if you know James. He's incredible. He's not going to be at Hypnothoughts this year, but he's writing an amazing book.
I'm not too familiar. I gotta look
Oh,
this
you
guy
got
up.
it. Yeah, James Harrison. Um, and so like, yeah, he was kind of like pointing me to like some research. And Irving Kirsch is the guy
Oh
who's
yes.
in the 90s, like hypnosis is a non-deceptive placebo. And I just think that is the best way of looking at it, because the placebo effect is, I mean, we have all the evidence we could ever want for it. And this is a non-deceptive placebo. So how can we allow your beliefs to kind of take shape and take form into this change that you want to see in your life? Like, we're in the business of allowing people to generate the beliefs that uphold this change or allow this change to take place. And that's just a great way of explaining it too. I mean, like, our beliefs shape our experience. And when your beliefs change, your experience changes, and we can all kind of, I think, relate to that in some way. Like when you understand, something about someone, like you find out some information and now you look at them in a whole new way and you can't unsee that, or you can't unhear that, and that's kind of what we're doing. Like when we go into hypnosis, like you will see and experience stuff that you can't unsee and you can't unhear. And that is when your life has to change, because your beliefs have to change. And all of a sudden you have this new information that you're going off of. So yeah, I mean, I just think that's a fun way of looking at it. And I really like his research, but, and I just love yeah, that kind of framework, that way of looking at hypnosis. But yeah, memory, like what we know about memory. And this is why I think, practicing from an evidence-based point of view, I don't do regressions. I don't, it's not necessary. And if we are, kind of, if memory is kind of all a little bit jumbled up anyway, like what we're doing in hypnosis, and this is to kind of like, this is always my counter to when people talk about false memories. It's like, yeah, we are creating false memories in hypnosis. That's the point. We're creating beneficial
Yes.
false memories that will inform your future. It gives your brain new options in the moment to kind of like be like, oh, wait a minute, like we did this. We can, and there's a story. This is so ridiculous, but my dog had stairs to go up on the couch, and like the little foam stairs, to get up and down from the couch. And I got her a ramp a few months ago. And I like, it's a ramp, it's kind of the same thing, but she doesn't have to jump this time. And she used it, and she used it like twice or three times. And then we took a walk somewhere where there was this like ramp going up, and I didn't even realize it. Like, she's going up this ramp, and it was like she was like almost like face to face with me because she had walked up this really steep ramp. And I'm just like, she learned to do that from 2 times going up this new foam ramp I got her for the couch. And like that, it's like you don't have to do something a lot to all of a sudden have this new option in your mind. And then the way that you engage with
Yes.
around you kind of changes just based on those little in creating new memories in hypnosis, rehearsing this new way of being, and just like it's going to come up in life. It just is. And when we talk about it too with that kind of certainty, we allow those beliefs to come in, to generate this awesome change and help that placebo, that non-deceptive placebo kind of work. It's magic.
Yeah. There's something about you that's very, I mean, you mentioned you're training witches. I don't know what it is. And I know we spoke earlier about like before we started recording about psychic fairs. Um, I don't know if it's the hypnosis. I don't know if it's just your natural energy, but it feels very clean. And what I mean by that is it doesn't feel like there's a lot of like I've interviewed people where there's just like I don't know, there's sage everywhere and there's, sigil talk and all the, and I imagine you probably do have a little bit of that stuff, but like, I don't feel it in a way that is, I feel like you're very accessible to people in a way that perhaps some practitioners of the occult, might not be. What is that?
Yeah, and that's like honestly one of the gifts of hypnosis. It's allowed me to be a little more minimalistic and
Yeah.
it just yeah, I appreciate that because I definitely strive to be accessible. That is my mission for hypnosis, to be more accessible and more of like a no-brainer. And I do think it's working. I know, people that come to me, my students, they're waiting for someone to talk about hypnosis like this, or to kind of, so yeah, I'm not trying to get, even the way I train hypnotists, my training is very neutral. I genuinely want my students to come up with their own style of hypnosis. So I teach them principles. I don't really teach them my style. It's not a proprietary method or technique. I don't really teach techniques. I teach like a formula for change work. And I teach, these principles that will, like, they can just overlay it over everything that they know, and they can start developing their own style, and they can change it, and then they're not just stuck in this like one way of doing things. I think that's really important. So yeah, and if there's anything that has made me more of a minimalist, it's hypnosis. Like I can get a lot faster results for my spell work. That was one of the first things that intrigued me, was like, how can I use this for my spell work? And also, like, I used to travel a lot and not always having all the tools and the things that I wanted. I wish that I could have this altar, but I was like living out of a suitcase for 2 years. Like, what can I can just use hypnosis. Like, I really, like, oh my gosh, the things that I've done in like such short windows of time with hypnosis are amazing. I love magic. I feel like I'm getting a little more into it now because I was removed for a while. I was very more minimalistic, and now I have like more elaborate things that are coming in. But that's for me. That's not how I deliver hypnosis. That's not how I teach hypnosis. It is very clean, minimalistic, and I appreciate you picking that up because I didn't think of it, but that's true.
Yeah, I mean, it's very intriguing. Especially as someone that's sitting here, I'm going like, spellcraft. What can you do with spellcraft? And I've asked people this before, and they give me like, oh, there's the love spell and all this stuff. But you don't seem like you're necessarily intrigued to control people in that way. I mean, what are you putting spells out into the world these days?
Yeah, for my own, but not, and again, it's the same way I kind of approach hypnosis. Like, I would not impose my will on someone. So just the way that I would not read a script to someone, in a hypnosis session, I wouldn't, but to me, that's imposing my will on someone else. And I just don't believe in that, because I don't believe it's like holistic. I don't think it really is genuine. And I think I've experienced hypnosis where I have had that happen to me, and it's, if I wasn't a hypnotist and didn't have the knowledge I have, I'd be like, I realize like they're working with an old part of me that I've already done all this work with, that just obeys, that is a people pleaser. Like, that doesn't work for me now, So lost your question, but I'm just talking. I go on my
Spells.
yeah, so I would not impose my will on someone else, but I can, kind of do things to help myself embody like the opportunities I want or how I want to be perceived. And, that's what I'm working with myself.
Yeah. Interesting. Desiree of Desmerized, desmerized.com. And also, you can learn the training from her. There's a lot of cool stuff. Evidence-based hypnosis certification for healers and mystics. You can join the weekly microdose of hypnosis mentorship. Um, Super interesting stuff. I was gonna ask you, I wanted to ask you this, but now I'm just like, oh man, I don't want to put her in low vibe states. I was like, I want to know your other hot takes on the hypnosis world, or at least, do you have views? Okay, maybe we can do this from a neutral place rather than a putting down hypnosis, as a field, because in there, yeah, the cynic in me goes, yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff in this field. Where do you think you do have an alternative view on the way this works compared to perhaps the mainstream hypnotist and hypnosis trainers out there?
Hmm. Um, I mean, I once made a meme about the Elman induction that was pretty divisive.
Oh, yes. Talk about that? Well, for those that don't know, the Ellman induction, I mean, Dave Ellman was one of the OGs,
Yeah.
especially of direct hypnotherapy, what you were talking about before with guiding, less permissive, more you're going to change in this way.
One of
Where Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, you go on, go on.
No, I was gonna say, like, what was your relationship to Dave Ellman? I mean, and what was this meme? I must know.
Yeah, well, that induction. So I do. I have my students, learn it just or watch videos about it because I don't want to really spend a lot of time teaching it because I don't think it works for. I don't think it works for the new guard, like the new generation. I just don't think it really carries over. It makes hypnosis seem like this really tricky place to get to. Like it's like a testing. There's a lot of testing involved, and like it just makes it seem so mysterious and inaccessible, and like it requires someone to kind of poke and prod. It feels like an alien abduction or something to me. Like so yeah, so the meme was just like it was Michael Scott from The Office, like I'm gonna make this as complicated as I care. What is it like? I'm gonna make this way harder
Oh,
to be.
yes.
So it was that, but it was a little bit divisive, but there's a lot of interesting problematic aspects of hypnosis, and I don't think that's problematic, and I don't want to insult anyone who has I'm really not trying to, but I am trying to make hypnosis more accessible and seem like a no-brainer, because it's not just that people need it and young people need it, but like it's literally all of our future clients are on the line. So we have to start talking about it in a way that makes it like an obvious thing to discover or to try. People want it, but they're not seeing it talked about in the way that resonates for them, the young people today. Young people today. It just sounds so nerdy to say it, but it's true.
Yeah.
So I think we just need to start talking about it in a different way to make it clear that yes, this is for you, and maybe even lighten the stakes. Maybe it's not an hour, maybe there's no progressive muscle relaxation, and if people get there, maybe we can work over sessions to get there. But a lot of people don't engage because they think it requires that, and that puts them off. People with chronic pain, or people that are just like constantly have to be stimulating, and like it doesn't feel good for them to relax. They're not there yet.
Yeah.
So
No, it's a bridge. I mean, I know that oh my gosh, am I gonna reveal this on the air? Yeah, sure, I'll do it. I was at a tantric speed dating event recently. And let me tell you, for those listening out there, this was a very interesting thing. I could talk about it in another episode, but um it wasn't, Tantra is, yes, it gets into intimacy and it gets into real deep stuff, the deeper you go into it. But the point of this was more just like, you're meeting these people, you're going around and you're kind of feeling energy. And it was man, woman, and every woman gets paired up with every guy, and there's like some kind of exercise, some energetic exchange, whether it's like, holding hands or something like that. And I was intrigued by how many people showed up to the tantric speed dating event in their 30s. And the prompt was cuddle with this person, which is kind of extreme. But even after a whole night of like minor exercises building up to more somatic shared experiences, deep hugs, cuddling, it was like, whoa, there are a lot of people in this room still that you're encouraged. Like, you don't have to cuddle. You don't have to hug. You can do something else if you don't feel comfortable. How many people even that late into the night still didn't feel comfortable with hugging? And to me, what I'm going is interesting. There's a lot out there, Desiree, about people being less intimate with each other, people being less socially engaged, less community. Um, the active, and here's how I'm going to frame this: the active sitting in a room with somebody, and I would, if I were to do this again, by the way, any hypnosis session I ever do will always be recorded. Always, always, always. It just has to be. It's 2024. You got to do it. Be smart. But especially if it's like this, where you're in a room with someone and you're telling them to close their eyes and go into the state intimate. I don't think a lot of people are comfortable with that these days. If I'm at a tantric speed date and people don't want to hug, then I think, yeah, and it's not like you're not touching the person, you're just guiding them into this vulnerable place. I think what you're doing, or what you're speaking to, a is a sign of the times. But what I will challenge on this um is there a drive to eventually get closer to each other again, you think?
Yeah, I mean, well, like, do you mean in the sense of like working? I don't even know
Like,
in
I
what.
don't know, is intimate trance ultimately the goal? Do we
Yeah,
want people to get closer to each other, or are we going to accept that? I guess culturally, there are the two sides. There's like, and I hate to say this because it makes it sound so cliche, but the woke is also often associated with like, don't make me feel uncomfortable. And I would hate for microdosing hypnosis to be like woke hypnosis, where it's like,
oh,
yeah,
oh,
because we're staying here in this place where we're not getting eyes closed, deep states, we're just going to be here because this is all the comfort we're allowing ourselves to be. And I don't
oh.
think you're saying that, but you're not saying go all the way in and hug me during this trance session either, because that's
Well,
also
that's what one-on-one hypnosis is for. So we spoke a little bit about that before too, like the differences between an audio track and that human, and it is very intimate. And that's why people cry. Like that's why literally people close their eyes and just cry sometimes, and they're like, I don't know why I'm crying. And it's like, yeah, you're coming into, this is like it's very intimate and vulnerable to close your eyes with someone there, and receive from, and like just go on this journey. Um, and that's a really important part of it. But, what does it take to get there? Not everyone's ready for that. And they still deserve to have more control over their experience. And that's where the microdosing comes in. It also comes in for people who are just really busy, like a lot of parents. Like, there's people who just don't have time to meditate, and meditation doesn't even excite them anymore because it's just like they have, it's like organizing around a goal is so important. That's why I have like hundreds of tracks that they can choose from that are like all, because they still deserve to like get something for them today, when they only have 10 minutes. And how can
yeah.
that start into your life. So it's just about like it's working on a different principle. It's not replacing hypnosis or meditation. It's not replacing a deep trance, but it's just taking the pressure off and also saying you can still get something from this. And if you have 10 minutes, it's better than nothing. We live in a
Yes.
and especially for people, young people who do live on their phones. I mean, what if we can start associating that device with this awesome archive of healing and knowing that you can kind of what you can embody when you're, have that thing nearby, that device that otherwise causes you so much stress. I mean, everyone knows we live through our phones now, like our devices, our screens, like everything is updating, like advertisements are updating to the ratios of an Instagram story because it sells, because it speaks to us unconsciously. I just saw I'm obsessed with commercials and neuromarketing because it's like, it's talking to how we perceive. They know. And so I saw a commercial for a Kia the other day, like that is literally getting likes and views. It's showing it from a cell phone perspective. And it's like, you just uploaded a story of your new car and there's all these people seeing it and there's all these people liking it. So that is the way that we get through to younger people now, is like through the phone. Like the old, analogies of the control room don't work as much. But what about we just use Instagram filters? Like that works, or TikTok filters. Like we get that, like that is intuitive, unconscious. It doesn't, their critical faculty isn't like, like it's not pinging.
Yes.
What's this control room? Like I've never been inside a, one of those, but I can add filters on my phone and know what it's like to like control, go into my controls and settings and such. So I just think it's about like adapting to meet people where they are. That's what we have to do as evidence-based hypnotists. Like we're not prescribing. I'm not reading scripts at someone. So I'm meeting them where they are. And if that's where they are and those microdoses fit into their life, then that is important, but it doesn't override the importance if they're ready and when they're ready and if they're called and if they have the money to devote their, themselves an hour and a couple $100 to changing this thing and sitting with someone. And one of my students, even he's speaking at the conference this summer. His name is Jimmy Juiced. Love him. He's from Brooklyn, actually, like known him forever. But he spoke about this like on Instagram at some point, talking about intimacy in hypnosis and the idea of consent in hypnosis. And it is an intimate thing. And, we're sharing space. We're co-creating this thing. It's important. And it's important to come to it. That's why I think the permissive aspect is so important, because when I receive more authoritative hypnosis from people, they're working with a part of me that I've already done all this work with. And if I hadn't done all that work and didn't know everything I know, I might regress a little bit to be that people pleaser. So I think honoring that intimacy and the vulnerability that is there, and really honoring that. Like I hold everyone in their highest potential. I think your subconscious mind is amazing and incredible and capable of anything. And it doesn't have to make sense. Like, let it be weird. Let it not make sense. We can't understand or make sense of everything. And that's coming back to the dreams again. Like, dreams don't make sense. And they're weird, and we wake up and then we're like, what was that? And if we choose to engage with the symbols, we'll start to understand a little bit. We don't need to understand them for them to work their magic, though. So that's kind of how I think about hypnosis. Like, let it be weird, let it not make sense. And if you want to understand, you can, but you don't need to understand in order for it to have done its job,
Yes. Wow. Désirée Eckert. So good. Very interesting discussion. Let me ask you this. Are you allowed to change your hair from being green and black at
It's
this
so
point?
ask that. I'm like, I actually was thinking, I really want to. I just want to go like all dark, but I don't
Is
know.
that the more neutral choice of the? No, I'm sitting here going, oh my gosh, she's branded herself this way. Is she
Yeah.
stuck?
No, I believe me, I will always do something to blow your mind. So we'll see.
Yes. I love it. I love it. Désirée Eckert, desmerized.com. And we will link to your membership as well. Such an interesting conversation. I am here. I've said this to you through chat messages before. I'm on this mission with you. I'm here. I am here to popularize this thing. I think it has been taboo for too long. I think it's been misunderstood, and I think all the stupid story, it's been sensationalized in negative ways, and people don't realize that their parents are the worst hypnotists on the planet more than anyone else, and they're just using words they don't even realize they're doing it. Therefore, might as well take the power back. I think what you're doing is really cool.
Thanks.
Yeah, yes, Desiree, thank you again for coming on. I guess I'll give you the final word here because I don't want to steal it from you. If there is anything you want to leave the people with about the power of hypnosis, about the future of our world, what a world of trancing each other out and exploring these really powerful tools could be, what would you tell people?
I would say start playing around. You have 2 free self-hypnosis sessions every day. Start engaging with those, even if it's just starting with 30 seconds. Go home to sleep. Don't fall asleep. Go to sleep on purpose. That's one of my desmerisms. Engage in that hypnagogic state, your last trance of the day, and let that be the thing that delineates the daytime, the waking world from this time that is all yours. Everything, the entire world is yours once you close your eyes. Just enjoy that and use it every day. That's life-changing. So that's what I leave you with.
Amazing. Excited to see where you go next with this. Desiree, thanks so much again for coming on. This has been great.
Thank you so much for having me. This is really fun to chat with you.
Likewise. Désirée Eckert. Such one of my favorite interviews I've done this year, for sure. And did you like Désirée? Do you like this show? It would help me out immensely if you subscribe and rate the show and leave a review. Go to ratethispodcast.com/open loops. Yes, you gotta try microdosing hypnosis. You gotta try it. Yes, it's phrases like that you're only going to hear on this show, kids. Phrases like that you can use to freak out your dare officer. Thank you, Rodney McGilvery, for the theme music. Thank you, Zero Boy, for the pre-theme music. Thank you, dear listener, for listening. Good trance.